Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Star Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin,
I'm Rae.
and we're here to talk about
Pizza.
I'm trying to cut right now. I can't talk about pizza.
Sorry, I guess we won't talk about pizza. We'll talk about Star Wars.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So Star Wars,
Pretty neat.
pretty cool. Happened in a galaxy far, far away.
And that's all we have for today.
All right, now that we got the awkwardness out of the way, let us talk about some of the new stuff that has dropped for Acolyte. We have a new clip. We also have a new theory that's been kind of going on for a bit, and then we also have the new James Mangold Star Wars movie title, and then we also have a new Star Wars game in the works. And I guess Daisy really hasn't even read the script yet for the new Rey movie either. So let's dive into it. Before we start, we just wanted to thank you to all of our Patreon members. We would not be doing this if it wasn't just for our fan base in general, but for our Patreon members. We love you so much. We love the fact that you come in and check out all of our new stuff that we drop in every week. So go and check out our Patreon. If you haven't yet, you can find us on patreon.com at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. Check it out. But yeah, let's talk about how Daisy really has allegedly has not read the script yet for the new Star Wars movie, the new Jedi Order movie that she's going to be in.
Okay, well, here's my first question. What is the approximate release date that they have for that?
Probably around the same year as the Mandalorian and Grogu movie,
which is
2026.
It's not too surprising that she hasn't read a script, because they're not going to send drafts to the actors.
Yeah.
And so she probably won't get a script until closer to filming. So I'm not too surprised that she hasn't seen a script. She probably has like a synopsis of what her role is going to be or what the plot of the movie is. But yeah, I'm not, because it's only 2024. I can imagine maybe later this year she gets a script.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so much happening too, like in that movie and behind the scenes, because of, the sequels aren't as loved as some of the other films. So I think they're trying to make sure that
the prequels were also hated just as much. And
very,
look
very
at them
true.
now.
Very true.
Phantom Menace is the #1 streamed movie on Disney Plus.
But to me, Star Wars is Star Wars, no matter what. Just because someone doesn't like something that you like doesn't mean that, I'm trying to think of where I was going with that.
It's fake and in space. So
yeah,
just enjoy it and let other people enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. So I'm definitely excited for that. If we don't see Porgs, I will be very sad.
Well, does she have any reason to go back to Octo?
Well, that island technically, so of where they were in The Last Jedi and then also in Rise of Skywalker, it's the first Jedi temple.
Okay. And
there was actually a hint of the new James Mangold movie, which the original title, like the working title, was Dawn of the Jedi, that's the age of the movie. But now apparently it's going to be called the Prime of the Jedi. How do we feel about that?
What time period specifically is this?
Roughly about 26,000 years before the events of the prequels. So Star Wars Jedi Prime, I guess, is the working title.
I don't know why, but Prime is just such a weird word to me.
I liked Dawn of the Jedi better just because of Dawn kind of means like, something's rising, a new beginning. It would make sense it was the Dawn of the Jedi because, if like he's trying to do a biblical type movie where he is kind of introducing the Force from the very beginning of when it was first discovered and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense if it was, you know, the dawn. Prime means like it's been happening for a while, and this is when something is like the strongest, or like,
It's when you peak.
yes. So Jedi Prime is a very interesting, because we're already kind of getting the Jedi in the Prime in the new show Acolyte, because this is when the Jedi are in their prime. They are peacekeepers. They are not soldiers. And that's what the Jedi are. They aren't pawns of the Senate. They are doing what Jedi are supposed to be doing. So it is very...
What's the timeline difference between Prime and Acolyte?
So Acolyte takes place about 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd guess because you can't have that long of a Prime.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's vacant in space. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I do like the concept of Dawn more than Prime. But I don't know. I'm not a wordsmith.
Well, so here's the thing. What would you like to see, like, in that movie?
I think, like you had said, like the Jedi coming to be.
Yeah. And not just the Jedi. Like, I don't think it should just be... I think it should be maybe two individuals that are, you know, that they find out that they're force sensitive, and maybe they're twins or something like that. And maybe that's where the whole dyad in the force starts as well.
Oh,
Right.
that would be really interesting to bring that into.
Right.
And because we need it, we need
Yeah.
a second version of that, because I don't know, it just feels too weird that it's like, oh, all of a sudden here's this entirely new
Right.
concept.
So have that happen.
Yeah.
That starts the chain going down the road to the sequels, and you know, that could also help the sequels as well explain, you know, that Rey and Kylo Ben were not the first ones, and it could just go on and on and on. But I think that would be great, because not only would it explain about the Jedi, but it would also explain you know, how the Sith came to be. And maybe one person out of the two was upset because he was like, oh, well, I think that person is more powerful than me. I need to get more powerful. And they get greedy, and then they fall down the path of the dark side. But they don't realize that they're becoming Sith until maybe the end of the movie. And I think that's why James Mangold was like, this movie is going to be biblical, because I could see it being like an Adam and Eve type thing of where they're not really knowing you know, of what they're doing is bad or good, and they're realizing of what the Jedi are going to be, what the Sith are going to be. And I think that's going to be a really interesting take on Star Wars, just because of we've really never gone down that path before. And there have been legend stories of who the first Jedi was and who the first Sith was. Of course, we know right now, which I think is still canon, is Bane, of being the first Sith. But well, actually, no. Bane was the Sith Lord that came up with the rule of two. So he technically was not the first Sith Lord, but he was the Sith Lord that did come up with the rule of two, which followed with Darth Plagueis and Palpatine and Dooku, Palpatine and Maul, Palpatine and Vader, so on and so forth. So I really think that they've got something cooking there, and I think it can be something really, really great. So, you know, take your time. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be really, really good.
We also have to be careful, because what you just explained with the like starts doing things to become more powerful and greedy and don't realize they're turning to the dark side is literally the plot line of Anakin in the prequels.
Right. Which again, that would bring things like, you know, full circle.
But you don't want a full repeat of that.
Right. But I guess some of what George Lucas's philosophy was, which is like, you know, it's beautiful, it rhymes. So you like see the same things happen and happen again. And there's also a really cool scene in Ahsoka of where Shin is talking to Balin, and Shin is, you know, is asking Balin if he misses being a Jedi. And he, he answers very quickly and he says, I miss the idea of it. And he talks about power. He talks about of how empires, rise and fall. It doesn't matter who is, in charge. Like someone always has to be in charge. But how did that start? With this movie that James Mangold is doing, they can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very intrigued. I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
What comes out of that.
Yeah. And then going back to the Rey movie, there's so many different things that they honestly could do with it. Ahsoka could show up, Grogu could show up. But at the same time, do you want a movie that's going to be like, here's our greatest hits, or do you want a new beginning?
I think a new beginning.
Yeah. I don't want Star Wars Episode 10. Not right now. Yeah. Not for a long time, for a very, very long time. Have it fresh. Have it, Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, and Daisy Ridley all come back. Have Jonas come back as Chewie. And I think it would be great. But don't make it Episode 10. Don't have it be like a Skywalker movie.
Yeah, I think the key there is going to be that Rey doesn't take a prominent position in the film.
Yeah.
Where like, because she's going to be a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
She's going to be a Master Skywalker.
Well, so
but let me finish my thought.
Okay.
So, but you don't want, if she has the lead prominent role, then it is going to be Episode 10. I feel like she needs to have like a side role where she's like training the lead role.
Right.
So she can still have a prominent part,
have
but
new
it's
characters.
It's not her movie.
Right. And something that they could do as well is, which I thought they were going to do this in the sequels, but in Legends, Luke Skywalker did learn from the mistakes of the Jedi Council from the prequels. And I was surprised, which again, not the High Republic books weren't technically written yet, but in the High Republic, they aren't really super strict, to me anyways, on the whole attachment rule, like because of there are some couples and different relationships in the High Republic. But in Legends, Luke changes that, and he kind of bends the rules in many different ways, so it's not the same as what the Jedi Council was, in years prior. So that way they never go down that path again of where the Jedi Council gets so blinded and so caught up where they are blinded by of who the real enemy is and where the real darkness is. And that's why they fell in the first place. And that's why Anakin, turned to the dark side, because of so many rules have changed over the years. And, you've got Obi-Wan, fine example. He definitely knew that Anakin and Padme were in a relationship, but he didn't do anything about it because he knew that Anakin would get kicked out of the order just because of how strict they were on those rules. So
he says that in a deleted scene.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And in Legends, Luke gets married. Like he does have a kid. And his Jedi Order was more relaxed. It wasn't, to a point where someone's like, well, I'm going to hide these feelings. I'm going to push them up. And because if Anakin was able to, actually talk about the things that was bothering him, he probably would have turned to the dark side.
Everybody needs therapy.
Yes. And that's what happened to Anakin. So it's just like, do we want to go down the same path? So do you think Rey is going to have a very similar way of doing the whole Jedi Order like they did of when Luke tried to restart it in canon? Or because, Luke, was about to kill his nephew.
Yeah.
in The Last Jedi, which, you know, I was blown away by that, but that's a whole other podcast. But do you think that he'll follow down that same path? I mean, of where she will follow down that same path of where she'll just try to restart the Jedi Order of the way that it was supposed to be, quotations, or do you think that she'll follow down the Legends path of where Luke was more open-minded?
I think she'll be more on the open-minded side of the spectrum.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, when she was on Octo with Luke, like, she learned about his mistakes and what mistakes he made.
Yeah.
And so she will likely learn from his mistakes and take steps to improve. I could see her possibly like having a struggle with like how many rules to like put in place, or like what kind of rules. But I definitely think that she'll be on the more lax side.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, no, it's just, I feel like if we just keep going down the same path, it's just going to feel really, really repetitive. And I think these characters are smart enough to realize if they go down that same path, that something wrong is going to happen again. Like, and this is a life lesson, by the way. The whole point of making mistakes is to learn from them. If you don't learn from them, then you are wasting your energy and time towards something that you can make go forward, and it can be awesome and great. So always learn from your mistakes. And that's why I was blown away, because Luke and the Mandalorian, even, which, you know, he, to follow the canon timeline, you know, was he gave Grogu that choice of the armor, the chainmail that Din made him, or take Yoda's lightsaber and then become Luke's, you know, first apprentice. And he said, if you take the chainmail, then you are giving into attachment. Not all attachment is bad. And Luke made the same mistake that the Jedi Order, you know, did, which I thought was a very interesting choice. But he had to, because you have to stick with the canon timeline of what the sequels are. So will Rey make that choice? Will Rey follow down the same path as the original council did, as Luke Skywalker did in canon, or will she go down a different path like Luke Skywalker did in Legends?
Well, also just thinking about the Rise of Skywalker, Rey knows like the power of like relationships, because she's one half of a dyad.
Yes.
So I would be shocked if she goes from being one half of a dyad and like seeing how important relationships are, of any kind, to then saying like no attachments, nobody, nothing, no how. I just, because she's also like, her whole thing is about finding family, and so her whole thing is about attachments. So yeah, I don't think that she'd be a no attachments kind of gal.
Well, there you go. That was a really like deep.
I know. I'm always deep. It's
so in the Acolyte, there is a character that Mandala Stenberg, so she's the cloaked figure that kind of wears like the mask and stuff. So it's really, really, really hinted at, you know, that she's playing two characters. It could be twins. It could be like, you know, it could be like the eviler side of her personality or something. It could be anything, but it's really hinted at that she's playing two characters with the same face. So it could be twins.
Yeah.
It could be, you know, it could be like a personality disorder type situation of where, have you seen the movie Split?
Yes.
Yeah. So it could be like that. So that's going to be really interesting, especially in Star Wars. This show is going to have a very similar tone as Andor, but I think it's going to be maybe not as dark, but just around the same level. Just because of there is going to be this investigating of this investigation side, because they are trying to investigate how all of these Jedi are getting murdered, and then they, someone's like, all right, well, I'm coming out of retirement and I'm gonna crack the case, and then they have to, kind of track down and see what's happening, and there's definitely gonna be plot twists and everything. But I'm really excited about the show. I really am excited. There's a Wookiee Jedi. He's 7'5", and he's beautiful.
Next project?
That's what people keep asking me.
How much like Chewie is he?
So the hair, the like the primary color of hair is very similar to Chewie. He doesn't have like the gray, that Chewie does, but to me, I think what makes Chewie 7'5" is I mean, not Chewie, but of this new Wookiee. I'm gonna pull up his name because I can't. I know it. It's just I stutter, so I just don't want to mess it up. So,
do 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 do.
So the new Wookiee is Kel Naka.
Okay.
Kel, yeah. Yes. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. But Kel Naka is the new Wookiee. And I think what makes him 7'5" is the giant like bun that he has on his head. And he's also very he also has a green lightsaber. His robes are sick. And there was like a kind of like a new kind of teaser where it showed him using the Force, and he kind of did like a spin thing. And I was like, I can do that.
Wookiee man bun.
Oh, Wookiee man bun. Yeah. Let me pull up a picture too.
I think
he's so cool.
if you have any extra hair,
yeah,
should make like a little clip so Chewie can have a little man bun.
Where is it? Oh man, it's super, super cool. I'm definitely interested in doing it. I think they dropped it. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. There's also a lot more white on the face.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that just looks a little too much like Sonic human teeth.
No.
Because the teeth are very exposed in that photo.
You were giving Chewie crap for his teeth earlier.
No, he's got some discoloration in there. He needs better dental work.
Well, it's like
better dental hygiene.
Like I told you, it's from all of the pork sandwiches that he had. Okay.
Well, you need to get him a better toothbrush.
Is there toothpaste in Star Wars? Have we ever seen a character brush their teeth?
I don't believe we have.
Huh. Maybe Acolyte might be the first show that we see.
I mean, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like it's more like Regency era Europe style, where they put like paste on a literal stick.
Yeah.
Like from a tree.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm excited about this. There is there's this new Wookiee Jedi, and then there's also a Jedi. Her name is Jedi Master Indira, and she actually was in the Acolyte books. So she's carrying over, and she also has a great she is going to be using a lightsaber whip, which we've never seen in live action before. We did see a small snippet in a teaser trailer recently. It's purple, and it looks like it turns on normal, but once she does a motion, like it like does like the whip thing. So
you just look like one of those car sales blowy thingies.
Go and buy our cars now. Yeah. No. But yeah. So there's gonna be so many cool and interesting shots in here. I'm just excited because it's new Star Wars. It is during a different time period where we aren't going to hear the word Skywalker. Probably not for a long time, just because this takes place 100 years before the events. But there could be time gaps. But it is the Jedi and their prime. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be awesome. New ships, new aliens, new planets. some old faces probably during this time period. You have Yoda, you have Yaddle, you have Yero Poof. He's like the big Q-tip Jedi that we see in the Phantom Menace, and he's like this, and then like his neck is really small, and yep. So there's that. You have the Jedi Master, Oppo Rancisis.
Which one's that?
His face, he's got feathers like, you know, on his face and stuff, and he
Feathers.
kind of looks like he's wearing like a turban, and then his lower half is like a snake. Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
a decision.
you really didn't get that in the Phantom Menace, but if you watch the Clone Wars, you actually see him move for the first time, and he's like slithering, like, and it's very, and yeah.
Don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah. So, you know, who knows who we're going to see. There's also a Jedi Master in there, which is the same species as Plo Koon. Keldor, some people are saying like, oh, it's Plo Koon. But in my mind, it was like, you know, there's other of his species. It could be, you know, anyone. It would
It's
be
like
cool
Grogu
if it was
being Baby Yoda.
right. It would be very cool if it was Plo Koon, but I don't think it's Plo Koon. But yeah. I'm excited. And that comes out on June 4th. It comes out 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, is it 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. And we are getting a 2-episode premiere as well. So I am over the moon. I'm excited for that show. That is going to be fantastic.
Time is just flying by.
Yeah, honestly, because a couple of weeks ago, we had the last episode of The Bad Batch, and then we had the episodes of Tales of the Empire as well. And then at the end of the summer, August 30th, which is the same weekend of Dragon Con, and I'm upset about it, but we are getting the new game, Star Wars Outlaws, and that comes out. And that game takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so there is still a lot of Star Wars happening. We also got our first look, so we actually got a first look at Star Wars Celebration in London, but we got our first look to the public of the skeleton crew, and you do see a Hordelin, and they've got 4 limbs.
Well, there you go.
Yep. Now the character is CGI.
Wait.
He is not. What?
What if what? What if as they get older they shed their limbs?
Oh, that's an interesting translation. So, Star Wars Explained came out with like a fact video recently about Max Rebo, and he was talking about his theory of like how over the years it got lost in translation, and how in some parts of canon Max Rebo has 4 limbs and the species has 4 limbs, but they've been trying to go back to it to where Phil to the original design that Phil Tippett came up with, where it was just 2 limbs. I am a 4-limb diehard fan for Max Rebo. I think a lot of people that know me know this.
If you don't know this by now, you must be new here. So welcome.
Yeah. But then a friend of mine, Stax Rebo, we've actually been having a debacle on
You've been having a war
on Instagram because we both discovered that we're on different sides of this opinion, because I always thought that Max Rebo had 4 limbs. She always thought that he had 2. So every time that something new Max Rebo pops up, or I see something, like I post on my story, and then she answers, and then if she does it, like if she finds something, then she does the same. It's been so funny. But Stacks are wrong, and I'm just calling you out now, and that's okay. But yeah, man,
You're wrong. It's fine, but you're wrong.
Oh man, but yeah, no, I'm very excited for Skeleton Crew, because not only does it look like a great show, but it is the 2nd most expensive TV show ever made in history.
That just hurts my brain a little bit.
Phil Tippett apparently has a lot of involvement in the show, which is great, because that means that most of the budget has been spent on practical effects, which is what the original Star Wars movies, very held on tight to. And
They always look better.
that was a really big part of it. But then George Lucas went to the prequels, and they did have some practical effects, but they were using CGI a lot in different things just because George Lucas was waiting for technology to, catch up. And if you want to learn more about Phil Tippett, honestly, I would watch the Light and Magic documentary that's on Disney Plus, and it talks about the birth of Industrial Light and Magic, about special effects, about all the people that worked on the original trilogy movies and stuff, but also carried over to some of the newer projects as well. Not just Star Wars, like you have Goonies, you have E.T., you have Jurassic Park, like so many other great iconic movies from the earlier days. So I would definitely check it out if you haven't read it yet. But yeah.
You mean watched it?
Watched it, yes. But yeah, so I'm very, very excited for that show. You haven't seen like really anything about it except that new kind of art that dropped?
Yeah, that's all that I've seen.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be awesome. Then there's the new... Oh yeah, you also have Hunters, the new game coming out. There's also dropping in June too. I was just thinking about that. But there is an other new game that's in the works that made Total Warhammer. I guess they're making a Star Wars game, so it might be a strategic game.
I don't know anything about gaming.
I don't really know anything about that. My friend and co-host Josh Holloway is a big Warhammer fan, so he might know more. So I might have to reach out to him. And but yeah, there's a lot of different Star Wars things happening, and we're like kind of like on break. But in the next couple of weeks, like more things will be dropping. So I'm super, super excited. And then you never really watched Indiana Jones, right?
I watched the first one.
Okay.
Because when I went to that fake film school, before you started, they sent out a list of like really iconic films that you should watch. And so I made my way through a good chunk of that list, and the first Indiana Jones was on that. So I watched that, but that was like 2014, 2013, and I do not recall any of it.
Okay. So this past weekend at Motor City Comic Con, I got to meet Karen Allen, who played Marion Ravenwood in the first Indiana Jones movie, and then in the fourth and the fifth. She is one of the nicest celebrities I've ever met. She's so kind. And before, I wanted to get into the podcasting world and, work at Disney and all that stuff. I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Oh.
And it was because of Indiana Jones. So we had a conversation about that, and then we talked about the Dial of Destiny and everything. She really hasn't done conventions like in a long time, and she was supposed to be there last year, but then she had scheduling conflicts, so she wasn't able to go. But I'm so happy that I got to meet her, and it really brought me back to my childhood because I love Indiana Jones. But no, that was really, really cool. But yeah. Yep. And then there's also a new Indiana Jones game coming out this year too. There's actually a lot of decent games coming out.
Cool.
You should get into gaming.
Pay for all the gaming station systems, and maybe I will.
Stations.
I said gaming station systems. I don't know what they're called. I'm pretty not smart. No, I just never got into gaming. So outside of the good old CD-ROM.
CD-ROM. Do you remember the cereal boxes of where they would I forget what year it was, but it was when I was a kid, and they did like the Cartoon Network type thing, and they would leave like a DV-ROM in the cereal box, and take it out, and they would have an episode of Scooby-Doo meets Johnny Bravo and like Dexter's Laboratory and stuff.
Vaguely, I know I didn't get a movie or anything, but I did get a music CD
Okay.
from a box of Count Chocula.
What CD was it?
It was just a bunch of Halloween music
Oh, interesting.
on a box of Count Chocula.
I know we got like the lightsaber spoons. That was a big deal in our house, and
I do remember those. Didn't those change color, or was that a different kind of spoon?
So there were three spoons. They were the same lightsaber hilt, but either you got a blue one, a green one, or a red one.
Yeah. I think the lady who babysat me and my sisters, I believe she had some of those. So I can see them clearly in my head.
That's awesome.
They also had a Jar Jar cup, and I thought it was the weirdest looking thing.
Do you still have it?
No, I didn't have it. They had it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna be like, don't tell Hunter.
And it was like a bendy, one of those loopy straws. And we'd drink milk out of it, and none of us knew what it was. We just thought it was this weird looking alien thing. And then years later, I tried explaining to my friend. I think I vaguely knew it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
I tried explaining to a friend what it looked like to try and figure out who it was, and she's like, yeah, that creature doesn't exist. And I drew a picture, and it was a pretty good picture, like
how old were you?
I was a kid. I'm not saying it was like,
but
like for someone who's trying to recall something,
right,
it was like pretty lazy. But like if you were to see it, you'd be like, oh, that's Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
But no, she was totally gaslighting me. Oh, that creature doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
How dare you?
And I was like, all of my memories are a lie.
Yeah. So for me, my twin sister, for those who don't know, I do have a twin sister. But because I grew up loving Star Wars, my sister didn't have the same passion as me, but she was like, there like for the ride. And I remember us growing up, and it was one of the new Star Wars Battlefront games, and we do see the planet in Kashyyyk in the holiday special, and then we eventually see it in Revenge of the Sith. But in the game, you actually get to play on that planet, and she couldn't say it for the life of her, or she just chose to call it something else. But every time I hear someone say Kashyyyk, I always think of the way that she used to say it, which was Kashyyyk yiki, because there's so many Y's and so many K's in there, and you're just like, okay. But yeah, no, she no, I've got fond Star Wars memories growing up like that. You didn't see the movies in the theater, right? Like growing up, because of you got into like Force Awakens like around when the movie came out.
I know. I honestly, I don't remember if the originals and the prequels would occasionally like be on TV at my house. We didn't own copies, so like whenever it was playing on TV, like my dad would have it on. So like I grew up like knowing like images and like kind of what it looked like. But yeah, I didn't like get into it until college. Yeah, I was in college.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I remember seeing episode 3 in the theater, and that was an emotional ride. I remember sitting with my brother and my and my dad, and ironically, the prequels always come around. The prequels would always come out around my birthday. And Revenge of the Sith actually did come out on my birthday, which was super, super cool. And I remember during the Order 66 stuff, I was crying, and my dad was like it's not real. I'm like, yeah, it was real to me. Like they're all just dying, and no one's doing anything about it. And at that point,
don't say that. It was real. It was real to me.
well, the other thing to me that was very interesting was back then we just thought the clones were evil the entire time. We didn't know about the chip thing. So I just thought like the clones were just, they just had that, going on of where they were holding the secret and then once, Palpatine was like Order 66, they were like, all right, finally it's time. These like Jedi have been just taking me off.
Which I mean, at that point,
Yeah.
that could have been.
Well,
And
yeah.
the story like
Right.
evolved as you add more detail
Right.
to it and do the Clone Wars.
And that's what made me really sad until we got the Clone Wars TV show, because of even before we got to season 6 of where they actually do explain the chips and stuff like that. And Fives does discover it. You know, in my mind, it was like, oh, okay, so Captain Rex was just pretending to be Anakin and Ahsoka's friend. Like, he was just faking it the entire time. But I'm glad they added the whole chip thing. Like, it definitely made the clones, not as evil, as I was hoping that they weren't. But I don't like Commander Fox. I will always, I don't like that guy. But yeah, I will always have great Star Wars memories growing up. How did you hear about the Rebel Legion and the 501st and stuff? I don't think I heard that story.
Okay, so actually, when I went to Florida with my dad, we were shopping around, and I think I can't remember how Star Wars would have come up because I wasn't into it at the time. Or maybe The Force Awakens had just come out, and so I was like into Rey.
Okay.
But this lady at Hot Topic was talking to my dad that because my dad was talking about how I do cosplay, and she said, "Oh, there's this group. I don't remember what it's called, but they do like it's an international Star Wars like costuming group."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh," and then just completely forgot about it. And then years later, like 2017ish, I was on Facebook in a group for Grand Rapids Comic Con, and somebody posted, "Hey, we're having a daddy-daughter dance night and it's Star Wars themed. Anybody here have Star Wars costumes that could come?" And so I shot her messages like, "Hey, here's a picture of my Rey. I'd love to help out if you need me." And she's like, "Okay, cool." And so I show up, and I had a pretty decent costume.
Yeah.
It needed like a couple of upgrades to be Rebel Legion approval, but it was pretty decent. And when I got there, the event coordinator was like, "Now, no fighting, but the 501st is here." And I'm like, the what? Who now?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And so she takes me to like this room for us to get ready, and I was already fully dressed up because I had no idea what I was doing. And there was someone there. I think there are 2 people doing stormtroopers. I don't even remember who it was. But they were from the 501st. And so they're like, "Yeah, you should submit this to Rebel Legion." I was like, "Okay, I'll look into it." And then now I'm here.
Fun. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, because of what was the first event that we met?
Grand Rapids Comic Con 2018.
2018. God, that was a lifetime ago.
I know.
Yeah, because of what? Because I've been a member for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So when the Skywalker saga, now it was episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It wasn't episode 7, 8, and 9 at the time. It was back in 2014 because I was asking, for my birthday, I wanted Star Wars on Blu-ray. So, and the nerd that I was, I had a R2D2 Xbox 360. So when you press the button, it did the whistle, and then on the actual on the disc tray, it said, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." So that's how, yeah. But I was really excited, and the main reason why I was excited because we were seeing different deleted scenes and stuff, and then they had this whole disc that was just special features and behind the scenes and different documentaries that I've never seen before. And one of them was the 501st goes to the Rose Parade. and I was like, oh, what's this? And I don't know if I might have seen, people in costume, once or twice, but I didn't really know the File First was. And then I watched that, and I watched them, kind of work in the costumes, and they travel like with the costumes, and they get chosen to be in the Rose Parade and stuff. And I was just blown away. I was like, this is great. I would love to do this, because not only do they wear these Star Wars costumes, but they get to give back to the community and give something to them that means so much to them. And they, and they do charity events. They go to children's hospitals, and they just bring so much joy to people. And I was like, that is what I want to do. So it took a couple of years, because I tried doing it on my own, and I just didn't know what I was doing. But then I went to Star Wars Celebration, which this actually brings the podcast into it, because I met David, where he won't tell you this, but he technically cut me in line. But we were in line for the 40th anniversary panel, and we just bonded there. And then David knew someone that had a stormtrooper, and he remembered that I was really interested in doing it. So that person pointed me in the right direction. And then I learned, how to get everything together. I eventually got it together. I got the costume approved. I went to my first event, which was in Muskegon, over in Muskegon. And I was this kid that showed up with like a cardboard box that had all my armor in it. And the first person I see was Craig Hobbs. And Craig walks up to me and he's like, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay, well, you need to do this. You need to do that. And this definitely has to change. And that's how Craig and I became, family. Like, to me, he's my older brother. But that's how I got into it. And then, I did my best to, troop as much as I could, because I think my goal when I first joined was to get like 100 events done like in 1 year. I didn't get to it. But I did a lot. I think I did like 50 something.
Wow.
Like in 1 year, something like that. But yeah. But man, yeah, no. I love that costume group. It's so much fun. It's such a blast. But yeah. Is there any current projects that you're working on?
Trying to think. Well, I'm working on adding some more accessories to my Rae. I'm working on doing the head wrap and goggles.
So is that technically like a different version of Rae that can get approved, or does that count as an accessory?
It's more accessories.
Okay.
But you can only wear them as they're seen in media.
Yeah.
So like if I have the head wrap and goggles, then I have to have the straps on the pants wrapped down the leg. But you can also, so that's like half scavenger, but you can also go full scavenger, which is the goggles, the head wrap, the shoulder pad, the backpack, an extra wrap.
We should reach out to James and see if he can bring his BB-8 that he has.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah. But I'm taking a break from a different project to work on that. The other project I am working on is making a dress for my high school reunion.
There you go.
Because I had a full personality change and glow up, and I got to show it off. Even though I'm only friends with 2 people from my high school, and only one of them is going. But, Yeah.
I've got my 10-year coming up here.
Also, the event is in a park across the street from my house. So
there you go. I should wear Chewy. Like, I should just walk up. People will be wearing like business suits and being like, here's my career. And I'll be like, they're like, yep, he hasn't changed. But
yeah. No, because I had always wondered like if my high school reunion would be scheduled such that I would be either coming or going to an event. So I'd be like, have like full makeup and hair.
Oh, funny.
And then like have my change in the car or whatever. Or if it'd be like so tight that I pull what I did a couple years ago and just show up to the event in costume. I was really bad at timing. Last year, May the 4th, I thought I could do a troupe, and then I had tickets to go see Hamlet at the theater that I work at that night. I was
How'd
like,
that work out?
I was like, that'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Troop gets done around like 5:30. I can get there in time.
Yeah.
Slight problem. I did not take into account the time change because Hamlet is 3 hours long. So they did the start time
Yeah.
earlier, which meant I had an hour turnaround. So, and like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
So I leave the event, not even bothering to change out of the costume because that takes time. So I leave the event, get in my car, drive, go through the Wendy's drive-thru, get food, go to the theater parking lot, scarf it down, and then run into the building and sit down. This is a black box theater, which means
Okay.
it's very small.
Okay.
We have like 150 seats in front row
Oh, nice.
in Hamlet, dressed as Ray.
There you go.
Intermission, a couple of people come up to me. Are you part of the show? No, I just have really bad time management skills.
So something with Chewie, which so depending on the mask, my mask was made by the great Nathan Ritchie, Captain Nader, and his mask is one of the most screen accurate ones that you can get on the market. With that being said, you can actually see the eyes in the mask. So I have to wear black face paint underneath. Even if you do that first, like wash afterwards with like face wipes and stuff, it still does leave, kind of like that black paint residue. So it looks like I'm wearing a mascara in a way. So if you have seen pictures of me wearing like where it looks like I'm like I have mascara on, that's why. And then I make the joke to some people because people ask me about it. I'm like, it's not a phase, mom. But yeah, I've definitely done that a couple of times of where like I'm just leaving the event and I would still wearing like my stormtrooper shirt and stuff like that. And but yeah, no, costumes are fun.
Yeah.
They are a lot of fun. I'm currently printing my custom Mandalorian. So if you heard some clicks and stuff, that's my printer. But the other one I'm doing is Clone Wars Anakin and then shirtless Anakin for Dragon Con. And what?
That's just so funny to me.
Well, I mean, it has to be accurate. Because he's gonna have
know.
like the blue like tattoos going down his body. So yeah.
I don't know. It's so funny to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not that many people have done that costume, so
Understandably.
yeah. It's I just like you just got to keep hitting the gym.
Yeah. Good luck with your project.
Yeah. Projects. Yeah. But yeah. So Star Wars, there you go. Is there anything else that you want to leave the viewers with? Any words of wisdom, listeners?
Max Rebo only has 2 legs.
Of what you say is true from a certain
I will take it out on Chewie.
No, don't you dare. With that being said, thank you so much for listening. You can find us on all social media if you type in @StarWarsStuffPodcast. Thank you again so much. May the force be with you.
Always.
Yeah.